GM everyone, welcome to another episode of The Dem Show. I'm Mebinetta. We have Atare, Diamond Hands, and a great guest today, Luca Netz. Thank you for being with us. Hi, Luca. How are you?
Hey, how you doing? Super stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Atare, Diamond, how are you guys?
I'm excited for this conversation with Luca. Luca's turning into he's slow burning legend in the NFT space with some of the stuff he's going on with Pudgy Penguins. So I'm excited to really jump into that and pick his brain a little bit about how he thinks about product and how he thinks about the NFT space from like a wider perspective. So really excited for this conversation.
And y'all know me, I'm all about humble beginnings and talking about where we can take those into the future, right? And I couldn't be more happy to have this conversation with Luca today. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you really enjoy this one.
Okay, so let's hear it. Let's go. So, Luca, let's start a bit with your past, like business-wise. So, you are an investor. You have been an investor for a while. Okay, what are you bringing from that for what you learned in your previous professional career into NFTs? Like, what did you learn there that you're using right now in NFTs and NFT space?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of a unique experience. Like, I've been known as somebody who's been able to dabble in a lot of different industries. So I've had, huge SaaS businesses, huge B2B businesses, huge direct to consumer, and then retail businesses. And so I'm fortunate to have a pretty extensive toolbox. And I didn't realize how much of that toolbox I needed getting into this space. I thought it'd be like another business, another shake at things. But boy, oh boy, am I thankful for that toolbox, because this business is like nothing I've ever experienced. It is so unique in that respect. I don't think you can really train for it. You just have to go through the struggle and ups and downs and kind of just do it. But I think, the two skills that I think have served me the best up until this point is my ability to communicate. I've learned the hard way that communication is key. And I was a really bad communicator really early on in my entrepreneurial journey. And so I'm super thankful of that. And two, the ability to be efficient, because this is one of the spaces that can really pull you in a million different directions. And you can see somebody doing something and somebody will reach out to you for a partnership, and there might be something to elaborate on. But being core to your vision, I think, has been really helpful for me. And I think the vision has never been more clear today. And every day it becomes more and more clear, even though I don't think it can get any more clear. It's just how that works. But I think those two things have served me the best. But again, this is, a lot of people think they can just get like a good Web2 CEO and throw them in this business. I'm like, oh, you are so wrong. You have no idea. I think my biggest edge actually doesn't come from my businesses. It comes from the fact that I actually spent thousands of hours trading NFTs, and I was actually super successful at it. So my core competency, I think probably what's helped me the most is I know where other people have messed up, because I spent 8 months trading NFTs before I bought the project. And so I think that experience has probably been the most helpful. I don't think any Web2 experience you can drop it in, other than like finances and burn rate and being like obvious things. But I think my trading experience has probably been the best experience I had coming into this business, if I'm being honest.
You said that your best experience is trading NFTs, and you said that you can't really drop like a Web2 CEO into this, but a lot of big projects have done exactly that. Do you have any thoughts? We don't have to get into like naming specifics, but do you have any, I think, thoughts generally about what you're seeing? And is this something that you feel like is a belief that you have that many other people don't believe, but in the future it'll become obvious?
Yeah, I think it's too early to tell. And again, I think the CEOs at some of these big projects have been amazing. Been some really amazing use cases up until this point. But just like looking back at it and like seeing, where we are today and all the things that I've had to go through, like, I think it's better information for the community to understand. I think it's like less like teams will have to make those decisions because you have to bring on like leadership and you're going to have to take that risk. But I think sometimes communities get too excited, when they see like a new CEO coming in and they're like, oh, this is phenomenal. They have this. And you'd be so surprised. Like that person's resume has like no bearing on like what that person is about to come into.
Right.
And I think that's really why I say it. It's less like, again, I think some of the CEOs been brought on board and are super impressive. And I think it's really too early to tell to judge. Even with me, it's still going to take some time to really see, who brings meaningful outputs. But the truth of the matter is, like, if you're a community member, like, you're not just going to get a new CEO and that's just going to be the whole, like, that's just going to change everything. I mean, we've even seen that, like, Cool Cats hired their new CEO, Stefan, who I think is phenomenal. But before that, they hired a new CEO and like that shook out like terribly.
Right.
I mean, like, he had no idea what he was doing. So I think that's just like, it's interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it shakes out. And I wish everybody nothing but the best at the end of the day. The more of us winning, the better. But I just want the communities to understand, like, it takes more than a good CEO. And for me, I loved the NFT space 9 months before. I've been in every Discord. I've been in every community. I've hawked, who is doing what when the big announcements were coming. And that's really where I think my edge up until this point has been versus where I think some other people have fallen short.
What's interesting is that you've had by being a degen first and then buying a project second, you've not only been able to see all the things that have been released, but you were able to see the sentiment in the Discords, on Twitter, the market activity. And so all of that is just key pieces of information that if you weren't there, you don't really know. Like, you can look at an OpenSea graph and say, oh, the floor dropped after this announcement, but do you know why? And like all those reasons. And that happens if you're living in the NFT space while looking at the Twitter in real time and Discord. So I thought it's cool to see that you're bringing all that expertise. What I wanted to ask you about was, you said earlier, you said you weren't a good communicator. For the listeners, one, what made you realize that you weren't a good communicator? And then what did you do to shore that up?
Yeah, it's a good one. But like early on, I think just in relationships in general, I think at first I had my first girlfriend just like kill me for like not being a good communicator. And then that was like the first time I realized that there was a problem. And then like I knew that was a personal problem. And then when I started doing business, my business partners were telling me like, hey, you suck at communication. Like, this is really bad. And so like how I would fix it is just, one thing that, like, closed mouths don't get fed, and you're not going to like get your point across if you're not communicating. And like, at the end of the day, like, your business 100%, unless you're just like super big brain savant coder and you have just something up your sleeve that just requires you not to speak to people. I think just anything you do in life, if you're not a good communicator, life will suck, whether that's with your boyfriend or girlfriend or significant other or your friends or your business. And I grew up really like my story is I dropped out of high school and I stayed 2 years in my room, no friends. And like people say that, but like I quite literally did that because I knew I had to keep my circle small. I didn't have a good sphere of influence. So I'd rather be alone than be with people that I thought weren't a good influence. And so like I wasn't like this growing up, but then like this 15 to 17 and a half range, I just became like very like one man army, me, the world. And that attributed to my first couple businesses having a couple pain points that I think I eventually got over. I mean, I was tired of taking beatings, but at the end of the day, like, you learn lessons and you make mistakes, but it's important that you learn those lessons. And I just got super, I'm just like, me not communicating being the reason why I'm losing tons of money.
Right.
And so I just learned how to communicate really well.
Can I ask you one more follow-up? What did you do specifically to like communicate better? Was it writing? Was it just being more open? I'm just trying to understand that a little bit.
Yeah. So I everything I consumed as I just consumed podcasts and I consumed listening to smarter people than myself, because the reason why I didn't like to communicate, at least in business, I didn't feel confident in my ability to get my point across without being offensive, or I thought there was like flaws in my communication. So notice I'm a high school dropout. I didn't make it past my sophomore year, but you're like, oh, this kid talks like he's from Stanford. right? Like, and I believe I could talk with the best of them. You put me in any room with anybody, I could talk with anyone. But it's because I manufactured that. I literally consumed the smartest people in the world for years. And instead of listening to Kanye on the way home, I would listen to the All In podcast with a bunch of billionaires.
Yeah.
And just slowly form this ability to, communicate. And then the most important thing actually is if I didn't know a word, I Googled it and I made sure I understood it. So not only did I Google a word and I read the definition, I would use it in a sentence to myself and just make sure that I knew what it meant. And I think a lot of people it's a weird one, but don't let that underestimate you, because it's I could say many or I could say plethora. One's going to make me sound a lot smarter than the other, but they both mean the same thing. And at the end of the day, impressions matter, right?
Yep.
And so having these little words in your repertoire, can be very useful. And those are kind of the two things I did. I consumed smart people speaking. And then when I didn't understand what they were saying, I researched it and I understood it. And that's kind of how I self-educate.
Cool. All In's one of my favorite podcasts that came out of the pandemic. I'm so happy that I'm excited to watch the episode they dropped. Let's get into it.
So watching a few of your other videos, which just amazing stuff. I was kind of wondering, hearing the struggle, the pieces of the struggle. I don't know, for me, coming from humble beginnings, hearing you talk about adversity as an opportunity, treating adversity as an opportunity. I really think there's a lot of good things in there, right? But you got to be willing to see the beauty in the struggle, right? Work the 12-hour days, really put in the time. What's going to drive you to get to that place? I think it's really important. And I was just kind of wondering, how does that shape your perspective in what you're doing now in NFTs?
So I think it just comes back to this, my family, dude, it's years of centuries of struggle and what I observed really early on, and it's more specifically my mom, and I've told her this, so she'll be like, "Why are you talking shit?" But it's just it's nothing I haven't told her a million times over, but I saw what stress did to people, and a lot of people that are stuck in these cycles of just struggle and adversity and never get out are because they let that struggle and adversity consume them, right? And they let that be the Achilles heel and and their excuse as to why they can't achieve certain things, right? And so for me, I use it as fuel. I repurpose it. I said, whenever I felt like giving up or my eyes were shutting after doing a 10-hour workday on the computer, I picked myself back up because I was I knew where I never wanted to go again. And so for me, it's, now that where I am, it's not the purest fuel. There's better fuel than that, right? But it's a powerful fuel. So don't get it mistaken. It's a dark, powerful fuel that can work very well. But if you continue with this type of fuel, it could be very unhealthy. And so now I'm trying to figure out my new type of fuel, which is change the world fuel. And I have an obligation because the universe and God me here to make a difference. That's my fuel now. But sometimes, don't get me wrong, I'll hear certain things and I see people sleeping on me and I bring that fuel, dude. I'm all right, dude, I'm ready to prove a point. But adversity is your greatest asset if you know how to use it. A lot of people just get defeated. And I was actually doing a thing. I was talking to it was an orphanage charity, and I was speaking to this woman, and just the everybody in this orphanage were just so defeated by their circumstances. And I just came in there and I was like, yo, guys, you guys don't understand. You have such an advantage. You guys are looking at this in totally the wrong lens. You have such an advantage because you've already hit rock bottom that you have nowhere else to go. And when things get tough, you can dig deeper the way that other people can't dig. I grew up, dirt poor, basically. I mean, homeless 8-9 years with my mom. We were bouncing around house to house. When we finally settled down, I started to make rich friends. And I was so upset at my mom, maybe 13 to 17 was the worst time between my mom and I, because I was so resentful. I was why is all my friends live great lives and we live absolute worst life? And, these kids had everything, they vacations, everything was phenomenal for them. And then fast forward 6 years later, they're completely screwed because they have no ability to dig deep because there is no pain and struggle that they can And again, this is just my assessment on how I look at things, but like I attribute my success to like me having no other choice. I remember vividly, like I left Ring and my first business, it was failing and I couldn't believe it. I cried in the shower that night. I was like so upset. I was like, what the heck? I was like, do I just go get a job? Or I just had nowhere to turn to. So I was like, I have to make this work because I can't go anywhere else. Versus maybe that kid that I grew up with that had a really good, like the second it got tough for him, the second he cried in the shower, that got me, like for me, and this is just, you can apply this a million different ways, but just I had nowhere to turn. I had to like go against the ropes and duck and cover and come back with a counterpunch. Cause if not, I would have been screwed. Like that's it. My life would have sucked. It would have been the end of me. Right. And so I just really encourage people, like your adversity is such a powerful tool that some people don't have. Now, everybody has it and some people have it worse than others. But no matter how you look at it, I really believe it's a tool to either prove something to somebody, to show that you can go from point A to point B. Just no matter how many ways you look at it, I just encourage people to look at their adversity and their struggles. And, for NFTs, it just goes to that. Now, I haven't put myself in a situation yet where I've really been put my back against the wall. My scenario is a little different because I didn't take from the community, I gave, right? Like no one can say you took mint funds. Like I paid $2.5 million to be in this situation to provide utility and to help my group. Right. So I don't get the same scrutiny than most because they realize that like, okay, like what are you going to do? Tell this kid to work more? Like there's very few things you can do in that respect, but that time will come, I'm sure of it. And when it does, I know that it will just be another challenge. And, even though there might be some certain situations, guys, this is a life. We're just living through a game here. Like this, there's nothing that
I
you
think
can't handle.
the beautiful thing about that, at least like for me, like, so I grew up eating out of trash cans myself. I was homeless 8 years ago before I went and got my bachelor's in cannabis, got my master's degree in dabbing. Right. But like, figure out like, you can't treat this as like a woe is me. Right. Like, of course, everyone has their struggles. It's not that you can't accept that. Right. But learning how to de-stress and kind of deal with the hyperization is such an important piece in what we're doing in NFTs. I don't know, just really quick, making it's defined subjectively, right? Like I also heard, like you say that like, you'd be all right living out in the woods, right? Like fishing, hunting, just getting down, right? But like the people around you, it's the people around you that you do the work for now, right? And so like, that subjective, that peeking to the side always in this hyperized place where so much money's moving, right? Like, I think it's really important just to have like, what is making it for you? What does that look like for each of us as individuals, even as holders? I know we put a lot of pressure on founders, and bless you for everything you do for the Pudgies. Like, it's been amazing watching the rise and watching the way you earnestly get down. I think that's a blessing. And to be honest, I'm only holding a little Pudgy, but like couldn't be more happy to be holding that little thing down. And he's a cute little fucker too, for what it's worth. But like, so how important is that, like clearly defined goals? Like, what do you think that looks like in this space where goals move every day?
Yeah, I think you're hitting it right on the head, Diamond Hands, because I think it comes down to purpose and vision. And this is something that I'm actually pretty upset at the space about right now. I think everyone, and not everyone, but I think a majority of the people's vision is too small. Like people have too much of a short-term vision. So my situation again I think is really unique because I think I'm one of the only founders in the space that if I left tomorrow, I'd be net negative. I think there's maybe one or two or maybe three people that are in my shoes. Everybody else can leave tomorrow and be, in a better spot than when they started. They just delete their Twitter app and then all the FUD and the nonsense, they just ignore it, cancel it out. So I've committed when I came and made this purchase, like $2.5 million is no little amount of money. I came at this like, I have to be looking at this like the 10, 15 year horizon, because if I'm not, then why did I spend all this money to do this? This to me has to be my next 10 years. So my vision is like, what does the space look like 10 years from now? And I think that's just the nature of the situation. Maybe if I minted and were $10 million in mint funds, maybe my vision would be different, but I think the space lacks visionaries. I really do. I think people, and I think you see that I think the marketplace has taken away royalties. I think is a perfect testament to that. They're looking at how do I make how do I take money from the existing audience, not how do I grow the audience? So it's a short-term thinking, right? Like, okay, how do I gain market share today? Not how do I gain market share 2 years from now? So if you think, how do I gain market share today? The answer you're going to get is, okay, make your deal structure better than the rest, i.e. remove trading fees so volume goes in your direction. But if you thought about how do I grow this space 2, 5, 6, 7, 10 years from now, you're going to come to a whole different assessment. You're not even going to think. You would actually give creators more royalties if you knew what the heck you were talking. If you knew, like, if you actually had like half a brain, you would take half of your royalties from your marketplace and give it more to the creator if you actually had a long-term horizon. Because you would know that creators bring audience brings user base brings volume. And so if you're the most creator friendly, it's like Robinhood is a $10 billion business and Facebook is a $500 billion business. One is a trading business. One is a content and creator business. Everybody's looking at this like a trading business. I'm not looking at it like a content and creator business, but that's because of their lack of vision. There's no visionary. Like Magic Eden doesn't have a visionary running the company. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, I just say it. I'll say it to his face if he wants to, or her face. I don't know who runs the business, but that's just an example. Same with Looks Rare. No, nobody has a vision. They're not visionaries because they're just thinking because trading royalties and editing some code is like really easy to do. You just tell the dev engineering team, hey, this is what we're going to do. It takes a couple days. You guys figure it out. It's done. But getting the next 100 million users, that's a fucking hard task to figure out. And so but no one wants to go there because it's like, well, because it's hard. And so just do the easy, short-sighted thing. Having a vision is hard. Being a visionary is hard. Don't do that because you just lack it. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I don't know how I got here, by the way. So I'm sorry about that. I think we're talking about purpose and vision.
Perfect. I actually wanted to ask you your vision and about the NFT space in the next 5 to 10 years. So you kind of gave like a piece of it. Like if you have something else to add on that, it would be very interesting to hear.
I mean, guys, it's the creator economy. Like this is what this is, which like if its royalties go to zero, then like totally dismiss what I say. But I don't think OpenSea will ever do it because I think OpenSea is the one marketplace with a big vision. They understand. You can tell with their education rollout and how they're doing things. Like they're never going to take creator royalties. And if they did, I mean, this whole space is completely screwed. But, this is Web3 is the empowerment of creators. For the first time in human history, have we shift the paradigm from artist exploitation, whether you're a photographer, a writer, a musician, a painter, an illustrator. For the first time ever, that paradigm has been shifted in your favor so that you no longer are going to have one person on top of you exploiting you for your creations. Your creations will forever on the blockchain be yours, and you can always monetize that. And the ages of Picasso's and Van Gogh's dying poor are gone, right? But that is what this is. Like everything we have to do has to be to empower the creator and bring them on, because it's like, what's YouTube without the creator? It's nothing. It's just another Dish Network. You know what I mean? It's a dead horse, right? And so like it's just one of those things that I think the future of the space is in creator empowerment. I mean, it's so obvious. Like it just even from a business sense, I'm not even understanding it. What anybody's thinking about over there. In any of these companies that don't think that this space is not about creator empowerment. It is. And you should want it to be, because it quite literally is the biggest business. It's the human attention business. And that is the most lucrative business by market cap. Just look on the NASDAQ by far what's going on here. And nobody's looking in that direction because it's hard. They're lack vision. But I think, I'm talking too much shit now. But the point of the matter is you get what I'm trying to say. Like the future of this space is creator empowerment. That's what I wanted to play my role doing. That's what some of these people are trying to break. But I believe the creators will have enough pull to make sure that people who power them will get rewarded the most.
I think there's a lot that you said that I want to jump into. I actually want to even just take it back a bit. Because you said one thing, and I really want to touch on that. You said that in your family, there was almost like a cycle of the same, I think, misery or like letting your circumstances define your life. And I don't know if you know the term transitional character, but that's somebody that decides to end like generations of trauma and say, it's going to stop right here. I'm going to do what I need to do so that future generations are no longer going to face the same circumstances that all the generations previous to this. Is that something that you've consciously thought about now that you're on the other side of it? I'm trying to understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I love that you said that. And that's definitely probably the most accurate way to look at it. I more looked at it like I'm going to break this cycle of victim fucking mentality. Like I
Right.
am so tired. Like it is like, dude, my family just always played the freaking victim, dude. And so many people in the world, I think 95% of the world loves to play the victim. And it's so easy to play the victim. Anytime something gets hard, it is so easy to say that it's somebody else's fault. It's the Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's the food I eat's fault. It's the government I eat's fault. It's my mom's fault. It's my dad's fault. My brother's fault. It's the ghetto's fault. It's everybody. It's so easy to blame the fault of and somebody else. But the second there was something I listened really early on is like the second you take accountability for your own life is the second that everything changes. And comparison is the thief of joy. The second I stopped comparing my life to everybody else's, and I was just like, dude, I have got full control over my own destiny. It's different if you're like in the Gaza Strip getting bombed on like that. I don't know what to say there. You know what I mean? But if you're in America, the land of the free, I don't care if you're in Watts or if you're in Beverly Hills or you have an internet connection, you have a bus, public transportation to a library, you can make anything happen. Too many people have done it already, right?
Yeah.
And that's just how I was thinking. I was just like looking at 60 Minutes, looking at all these great stories of people coming out from nothing. And I'm like, yo, their life is so much worse than mine. And I can play the victim and cry about how bad my life is all the time. But in hindsight, in reality, there's a million people with lives way worse than mine. And they are persevering and making it out. So I'm done with this victim mentality. I'm done with blaming other people. I'm tired of hearing my mom blame other people. And it's always somebody else's fault. Oh, look, it's your dad's fault. It's everybody else's fault but hers, right? And so I was just like, I'm going to take initiative. There's no excuse. My life is my fault. I dictate my success. And the second that thing shifted in me, I mean, like 2 years later, I became a millionaire. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
Teenager, you know what I mean? Like, dude, 19 years old, like could barely cook a steak medium rare. Now I'm making millions of dollars, you know? But it was that shift that I was just so sick and tired of being the victim and everybody saying that it's somebody else's fault. And again, back to what you're saying, that was the shift, that trend, like being that was just, I'm done here, I'm ending it. And it's ended, dude, no matter what. Like, as long as I'm alive, that cycle's ended in this family.
It's like but by you doing what you did and now sharing your story as well, you're giving not just your family but also other people the codes to life. You're saying, hey, here's money will come, but this is what needs to happen first. It's that mindset shift. I want to jump into the dark energy. I love that conversation. Kobe, his trainer, all of that stuff. I'm super into that. And I've been thinking about my own role with dark energy and how powerful it is and how it can destroy you. The way that I reframed it for me was, too often it's a fire, and a fire can burn down a house or it can fire in an engine. And it's really just about being able to channel that in a specific direction. And I think for me, I never was able to channel it properly for a very long time until I had to make that mental shift. I'm curious, have you learned, or are you still in the process of learning how to channel that dark energy so it doesn't, like, quote unquote burn down the house?
Yeah, it's really hard. And for me, like the problem is dark energy and the ego go hand in hand, right? So like the what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like rework the dark energy and turn it into like white energy, which is like, okay, Luca, your purpose is to change the world. Like, this is what it still isn't the same. And so like it's actually a really hard question because no, I haven't figured it out. The way you positioned it was interesting. Like, how do you use dark energy and like control it almost like a Rasengan, like Naruto's Rasengan,
Yeah.
or like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm working at it more like, how do I replace the Rasengan with another Chidori or something? If you don't know Naruto,
I
what
do
the
know.
fuck is
I
okay,
Well,
cool. So
sorry,
like,
Luca, just to jump in there, because that analogy is interesting. That's an analogy that I also went through and thought about myself. And I'm like, look at Naruto. He didn't replace the Nine Tails, get rid of him. He just had to learn how to channel that and learn how to
I like that.
it's like, for me, the dark energy comes up when it's like, when the ego comes in, I see somebody else kind of doing something similar. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're doing that. watch me do this. And for like 2-3 hours, I'll use that energy to like, I don't know, write a thread, get it out there, and then I let it go and I move on and I don't compare. That's like, it's like timed release almost. And then I let it go is kind of like what's helped me like use it, but then not let it like consume me and destroy me. But please continue.
Yeah, no. I mean sorry, I kind of lost train of thought. The point of the matter is I like your thought process on that. I'm thinking about how do I replace dark energy with pure energy, right? But you're saying like, dude, there's a way you can Rasengan the dark energy, and I haven't thought about that. I've been more focused on replacing the two
Mhm.
because I have like a spiritual mentor, and that was it. But I like your assessment because I think maybe being able to like bundle dark energy might be more powerful. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, let me.
It's an experiment and I'm still playing with it. I just know that I tried to replace it as well. And I'm like, I don't think I'm worse off by trying to replace it. I'm better off by having it and using it and having it still available. It just never goes away. It's a part of you. So it's just something I thought about. Let's get back to this is a great conversation, but um, I also want to talk about Pudgies. We know you bought Pudgies. We know that you were in the project, you loved it, and you saw what was happening with the previous owner. What I'm curious about, and I don't know if you've touched on this, is what does a handoff look like for an NFT project? Like when you purchase one, is it like you reach out and say, "Hey, like I want to buy this." You guys negotiate terms, and then what are the steps that happen between you initiating the conversation and the smart contract being yours?
It's a pain in the butt to say the least. But you definitely have the conversation going back and forth, negotiate the deal, agree to the deal. Then there's not many deals referenced like this, so it's definitely a complicated deal to paper out. Something like a agreement. For us, we bought like 80 different things, so anything and everything under the sun that you could possibly think of, we purchased. And then, after months of back and forth, you send the ETH. The lawyers confirm the ETH has been received, and you make that final transition of, they send the passwords to the lawyer, so it's not like, oh, you send the money and then you have to wait, like everything is like in an escrow, and then
Cool.
like the documents get unlocked like the second the money is received, and then you're ready to rumble.
Cool. I mean, it's would you say that it's a more smoother process in purchasing business compared like a Web2 business versus a Web3 business?
Oh, not even close. It is exponentially harder. What should have took 4 weeks took like 12, 15. Part of it though is my lawyer was like, we're inventing case law. Case law is like when you're doing a document or an agreement, you reference case law, right? Like you reference other situations, Kentucky versus Joe. You know what I mean? Like there's like things that you can point to. You'd be like, okay, this is how it's structured. This is how it was determined. Like there was nothing like that in Web3. There's no purchase agreement of Web3 NFT IP that you can reference. So they were almost like creating it, right? And so in that respect, it was a lot more difficult because they're just like, it's not a traditional document. There's too many layers and like things that people have never talked about before.
Right.
So it's like egregiously long, but I was patient. I got mad at my lawyers. Like, dude, I mean, that you're going to let me take my time. I'm going to fuck this up. You let me know. I was like, all right, man, I never said a word afterwards. I was like, right.
You tweeted out, if you don't step up to be a leader, someone else you don't want to will. And uh, that was the line of thinking I'm sure that informed you purchasing Pudgy. And I believe it was in reference to Beanie being on the verge of buying Pudgy Penguins. Now, I mean, we can get into that, but what I actually want to touch on here is Beanie he recently returned, was making some media appearances, getting on some Twitter Spaces, and we saw the reaction in the community that people haven't let go. People are still thinking about what he did and his reputation and all of this. And so, my question is, what is the reputation that you want to have in the NFT space or the crypto space as a whole, and where does Pudgies play into that? And this can be in a 5-year timeline, 10-year, whatever you want.
That's an interesting one. I want my reputation to be the guy that went where everybody else didn't want to go. You know what I mean? And I want to trailblaze my own lane. I don't want to build the next great metaverse. I'll let you go build the next great metaverse. I know I want to do, and I want to play my role. And how do we, monetize IP for our holders? How do we provide emotional utility, which I think is totally on. I think there's two types of utilities. I think there's emotional and transactional. Transactional is what we've seen be so successful up until this point. how do you build a real company with real revenue that isn't built off of Ethereum mints and royalties? And I want to be the first to actually make hundreds of millions of dollars doing that, right? Not just, hey, clicking a button and minting. Like minting is so easy, like it is so easy, and it is so like people just like are so whoa, and you'll hear founders like, I just made the new minting mechanism. Like, get out of here, dude. Like all that shit is easy. Like that stuff is really easy. It's easy to hype people and mint and like do it's easy, dude. And so like what's hard is building a real company with real money outside of the easy stuff. That's hard, right? What's hard is getting an IP that touches millions of people, that people are like, oh, whoa, I love this Pudgy Penguin. Oh, it's an NFT. I didn't even know. That's hard, right? What's easy is just like finding the same little rat race, chasing the same little group of people, telling them what they want to hear because it's easy to tell them what they want to hear, feeding it to them, and then just saying, hey, now I got another mint. Let me make a couple more $1 million or $20 million or $30 million. And then, oh, by the way, it's still coming. Like that's very easy to do. And so like, I want my reputation when it's all said and done to be like, dude, he trailblazed the fucking real deal out of this shit. Like he did this shit the real way, how it's supposed to be done. And like, and he did it with integrity every moment up until this point. And so like, I want to set the bar. Cause I really believe there's a bunch of companies that are Web3 companies that are just minting stuff on the blockchain and calling themselves Web3, but they're not actually Web3. That's not what Web3 is about. You're really just a Web2 company selling digital collectibles. Let's just be honest, right? Hiding behind community and hiding behind your PFP and your brand loyalists. But in reality, you're not a Web3 company. You don't interact with it. You don't build. You don't take ideas from the community and turn it into life. You don't weigh pros and cons with them. You don't do the back and forth. You don't world build with them. You don't do any of that stuff with them. So like, you're not, you pretend like you're Web3 because that brings you the big valuation, but you're not actually truly Web3 because you notice out. And so for me, like, I just want to be one of the people, like when it's all said and done, like I knew coming into this that when I succeed the way I want to succeed with Pudgy Penguins, it's going to change the space forever, because the type of top talent that is going to come in once I like really take this thing to where I want to be and be like, this dude built a fucking $1 billion company off a $2.5 million investment. And like, what the fuck am I doing this CPG business making 20 million? That ain't fucking worth $1 billion. I'm telling you, I'm going to open the floodgates when this is all said and done. People are going to really do these acquisitions. They're going to buy these dead communities. They're going to do it all. And like, that's where I like want my reputation to lie. And once Pudgy's at 100 ETH floor, and that's where I want it to be, like, I want to buy other projects too. Like, you need more in the ecosystem. A world is not just one character world. You need multiple characters to really make the story interesting. Yeah. Right. And so I want to keep swooping them up and keep saving people and be the savior if I can pull it off. And, at a minimum, if everything goes to shit, then I want to be known for the guy who tried and put his money where his mouth is. At the end of the day, it's all that fucking matters. Like, everybody can believe, everybody can talk, but I've been a firm believer since I was very young. Like, I put my money where my mouth is. I believe something, I'm going to put up to the plate. I'm going to step up to the plate. I'm not just going to tell you. I can sit there and do the silver tongue salesman pitch all day long, and I can chat either which direction, but I'm going to show you. And again, I can't control my destiny. I put everything on the line for this. I hope it goes where it is. I plan on it. But if it doesn't, then I'm the dude that fucking died trying or stood on that hill, like giving it the best shot I could. And that's all you can do in life.
Which is an important thing. And I believe manifestation is real. And I like that you say when it happens, not if. I think it's a very important distinction. You've also said that you want to create products impacting people in a positive way. And you've mentioned that emotional utility. And I think, like you said, it is slept on. One of the things that hit us hard, emotional utility wise, was being included in 10K TFS captains. Like, that was a mind blowing experience too. And we were live streaming when they revealed it. And so we got like raw reactions, and it's on like YouTube and whatever. And it's so cool to look back on that. My question for you is, how much are you weighing the emotional and the transactional as you think about it? Is it like a Gary Vee jab, 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 right hook kind of situation where the transaction is the right hook and everything leads up is more emotional utility? I'm just trying to understand how you see the proportion.
I like how you say that too, because I definitely look at certain sprints like punches, and I tell that to my team all the time. I'm like, yo, we got to hit them with the right jab, and then I hit them with the bang, and then I hit them with the uppercut. Yeah. Right when they think like that was my rollout, that I just hit them with one more. If you've noticed my big moments, that's kind of how I roll things out. I'll like jab, jab, jab. Like, I'll play with them a little bit, get the interest, the buzz going, then I'll knock them. And then, so I like that analogy. Disney is a $200 billion company off of emotional utility. They're a transactional utility, right? And so smart money as a space grows, right? I think right now the space is a casino with a bunch of people who like to gamble and like to make profits, right? It's the same people buying shit coins and Fartcoin, or the same people buying NFTs on a pump, right? And that's why transactional utility is so important right now. But emotional utilities, I really think where you have to win, because transactional utility forces you into a spot that I think is tough to sustain. Now, I believe my transactional utility is sustainable, because the problem is maybe not every single holder all time will benefit, but you can touch a lot of people and you can impact and create, real value. And I think that the space has to win, has to be one off of emotional utility. I mean, it quite literally has to. So my part of what I'm trying to do is just and I mean this when I say it, we have our Instagram, for example. So if you want Pudgy Penguins, you kind of see the content, positive affirmations, you pull to the right, you feel good. If you sign up to there'll be a little text button. If you sign up, every other day we'll send you a text message, super uplifting shit that will change your whole day. Highly recommend. If anything in the Pudgy Penguin ecosystem you should sign up for, it's really that fucking text message. I shit you not, totally not biased here, but I go through shit every single day. And when I get those text messages, I'm like, dude, who the fuck is this? God speaking to me, dude? Because somebody's dropping some sauce right now that is just so needed at this moment.
Oh, that's amazing.
But I tell the community, look, when you guys support us and you trade and you give us royalties or you buy our merch or whatever, we're helping people. And I'm not just telling you that. Go on our Instagram, look at the content that we're shipping out on TikTok and Instagram and all these social networks, and look at the comments. Don't just take my word for it. I'm not just telling you this. People are literally saying, we're getting messages and texts back. I would never put this stuff out there. Maybe I would block the number out or something, but we've had people text back our number saying I was going to commit suicide and I didn't. This whole thing could go to zero tomorrow. I could lose all my money. Floor price could be zero. I'd be I don't give a fuck. I'm changing people's lives, dude. What the hell is your project doing?
Yeah.
Isn't that the purpose? Isn't that why we're all here at the end of the day? If you derive human purpose, isn't it to change people's lives, to make people's lives better and make the world a better place than when you came into it? That's what I've derived purpose to be. So the floor price, all that shit doesn't mean anything to me anymore, because it's ask all these other blue chip projects that you think are better than mine, who they're preventing, who they're getting messages like that. They're getting comments on their posts like we are. No. But I tell our community, and they should feel responsible for that. They should be responsible for that life that, they might or might not have saved. They should feel responsible for that day they changed. They should, because they're trading, they're giving us money, whether they're buying our products or trading our NFTs. And I'm spending that money for people to content create. And those content creators are helping people in a better way. So at the end of the day, that's all you can do in life. At a bare minimum, I've already won. I've already won. The business could go to zero. It doesn't matter to me anymore.
Yeah.
I've already super proud of where this company has been in the short 6 months of putting it over. And so for me, emotional utility has to be it. At the end of the day, we just gonna just be degenerates all day. I wouldn't even art. When I buy art, I've overpaid for all of my art in my home, and I'm a big art collector. I don't care. I'm not here to trade it or to flip it. Right? If you're going to go do that, go to Forex. What are you doing in NFTs truly? If you're here to chart, flip, go to Forex, dude. It is way more you can do a way better job. Go learn options and straddle shit. You know what I mean? That is not the place to do it, dude. This is an emotional, business and collect, collecting is emotional, dude. Collecting is not a fucking, I don't collect, okay, I might've bought sports cards cause I thought I would make money and it'd be a good investment. And then the second I got them, I'm I don't give a fuck about them. I love my little shiny Jordan, it just people are just are totally, I think the degeneracy is is a bubonic plague right now in the space. And I love this little bear market because it's just shitting them all out. Just get out of here. You've lost your money.
Yeah.
You came in because you thought you were going to get rich quick. So leave. And it's so healthy right now. It's a great purge. And it's get out of here, dude, because that's not what collecting is about. And you yes, you can make money, and I totally encourage people to like, yeah, like take profits if you're in the money and things are going well. But like, this is not like, if you want to trade shit, it's called Robinhood. Like, go, like, do the whole 0% trading. And like this is an emotional business. So if emotional utility, like transactional utility is like this right now, and emotional utility is like this, like it is like, so it's like, honestly, you wouldn't even see the screen. It's actually like a way bigger discrepancy, right? It shouldn't be like that. At a minimum, they should be even, you know what I mean? But like the degenerates have just totally like took it past the screen. And so not even hopefully, I know that with time, people will start to agree with what I'm saying, and we'll get more purists involved and less opportunists, right? Which I think the space has played with opportunists. And again, the collecting business is such a huge business. It's a fucking $100 billion business in totality, even bigger probably. So I'm super hopeful, but that's where I want to win. I think this is where I actually think Pudgy Penguins can win the most, because everybody can resonate with a Pudgy Penguin. It's one of the things that I thought, one of the core advantages I thought Pudgy Penguins had versus the rest is no matter your ethnicity, no matter your age, no matter your gender or how you identify, you can resonate with a Pudgy Penguin. You can't say that about a lot of projects. 99% especially in the top 100, I think 2 or 3. And I think we're probably the leader in that respect. And that's where I want to win. So I'm counting on emotional utility being more than the transactional utility, but I'm not negligent of transactional utility, because I think that is one of the beauties of this space and one of the beauties of the tech. And I'm not here to just completely neglect that. And so that's why I've kind of innovated my own little lane on how I think transactional utility can be scalable and real and genuine versus just like deploy, airdrop, distribute, airdrop, boom, and like disappear,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you don't hear these kinds of high level conversations on transactional and even separating it to emotional. And I think it's like it seems like that's your unique view of what's going to make an NFT project work.
So going back with everything you said, we feel, and I feel, that you have a lot of empathy. It's like you are an empathetic person and you care about other people's lives and the impact that you're going to have into their lives. So in your life and also in your business life, can you just explain how much empathy plays a role in everything you do? I think it's also in the little things, probably, no?
Yeah, I think it's like, I was born this way, but like back to my listening to like top entrepreneurs speak, like they'll all tell you like empathy is a superpower. So I was thankful in the fact that I was born with it. Like I used to be 10 years old and see a homeless person, I'd start crying. I'd be like, dude, why is he homeless? I mean, like that's just like, like that's just like me. So like it's an advantage, and it's an advantage because like without empathy, you can't refine your product to be better, because you can't empathize with the criticisms that people give on your product. Right. And so like that's really why as an entrepreneur, it stems back into like how it is so important. You have to be able to have empathy, because if you can't, then you'll never respect people's reservations or problems with your product. And then you'll never improve and better. I think for those reasons, I think empathy is imperative. Now, I'm thankful for the sense that I was born with it. And if I see even today, maybe not a homeless person, but a homeless person with a dog, I'll shed a tear. Fuck, like, or I'll put everything in my wallet. It's like little dogs or something for me. But nonetheless, like I think like it's everything in this space. It's like you have to be empathetic. Like it's like if a holder's complaining, right, about something, most people, right, that I've seen, and this is just my assessment, they'll just be like, I don't give a fuck. Like, you're communicating, you're bitching. Like, why are you bitching? Like, all right, like, cool. Like, for me, like, I actually give a shit, like, kind of. Like, I'm actually like, okay, like, why? And like, if it's super unreasonable, I have the wherewithal to realize why that's unreasonable. But like, if it's reasonable, then like, dude, I get it. You know what I mean? Like I need to do a better job as a leader. Like there needs to be like the communities are huddle. And if you know how penguins move, they move as a unit. Like The second penguins start going astray, the huddle is the second they start freezing to death, and then they start dying. And then my job is not to get the huddle and penguins to start dying. My job is to bring the huddle together and grow the huddle, right? And to create a bigger migration as we continue to move. So I can't neglect people and I can't lack empathy when they have reservations. And if I can fix them and they're relatively easy to fix, you're damn fucking right, I got to fix it. Because like there's some problems I cannot fix, right? Some problems take too much resources that we may not have, but there's a lot of the problems, like you'll see the main problem with a lot of projects is fucking communication. How are people still struggling with this shit? Like, how is this shit still like that hard? Like, it's not that hard, dude. And like, the thing is I'll be honest, I'm not even really like, I'm not spending fucking it every day in the Discord. Dude, I pop in that shit fucking, excuse my language. Now I'm getting like a little too comfortable, but like, I'm popping in that shit like 2 times a week, 3 times a week. Like, I'm not in there every single day.
Yeah.
But like, when I talk to them, I'm honest. And like, we're having real conversations with real back and forth and like, tackling real problems. And like, I wish I could do it more, but sometimes you say too much. And that's why I told the community this. I was like, hey, like, if I talk more with you guys, like it's gonna kill some of the surprises.
Yeah.
And like part of the game is the surprise. You know what I mean? So like, bear with me here. But like, I'm in there like 7 days on spaces every single day. But like, they would tell you like, yo, Luca knows how to freaking communicate.
Right.
Like, I'm not communicating, but so like, I just don't, it's like obvious, but like if somebody were to tell me like, yo, I think you should be communicating better. There's a guy in our community buckets. He was like, yo, I need you to like, I think you should do that. I was like, dude, of course. Like, he was like, yo, just pop in occasionally, say a couple things. And I do it. And he's like, dude, stoked. Like, that's all you needed to do. And it's like, people are just like, will take things and just have no empathy and be like, dude, what is this guy saying? It's like,
Yeah.
and you have to have empathy in this business in Web3. It's like, it's a complete empathy business. It's probably my biggest natural trait that gives me an advantage.
I want to jump into content. So you mentioned the tweet earlier. You said that we're all aware that the content creator business is exponentially bigger than the trading business. And that's referring to Robinhood versus Facebook's market cap. And now we're seeing Pudgy Media. Pudgy Media is launching. So if the NFT project itself is a content business, then how do you think about each NFT project being its own media company? Because that's kind of how we see NFT projects. We think that each NFT project needs to be its own media empire and create content and cultivate it and give creators the opportunity within that community. So I'm curious, it sounds like you've thought a lot about this and this is the direction that you're going in, is to focus on content creators even within the community and empower them with the shows that you're creating.
Yeah, dude. I think for us, it's like content, people like really like let this one go over their head. And I know I did for a very long time. And my Web2 businesses had like on content, here, Gary V, content is great. And you're just like,
Yeah.
Gary, like, but then if you like really understand it, it's about what's your message and the content supporting that message. And so if you have a really good message, you need like, I talked to Logan Paul 4 years ago. I'd basically had a business. My most successful probably venture was I was building brands and merchandise for influencers and celebrities. I basically said, you have millions of followers, but you don't have millions of dollars. So I'm going to build direct to consumer brands around your likeness and we're going to push stuff. And it was, you wouldn't even believe how successful
Mr.
that was.
Beast, like think about what he does.
Exactly. But I never had a Mr. Beast, but I had, people close to that. Right. And so like I asked Logan, I was like, I think it was Logan and Jake. We were sitting at Jake's house in Calabasas. I was like, what do you think is the most impactful reason as to why you guys were successful? And they said quality, consistent content, but consistent being the most important word out of that phrase. And they blew up off of a vlog a day. That's what blew up Jake and Logan Paul, right? I mean, Logan, they had their little Vine thing, but like it was really the vlog a day that took them into like, okay, now they're a big time YouTube influencer, right? And you look back at it, it's just like, how are people, especially in Web3, and this is, I think, another one of my core advantages, and I actually need to do it better, and this is why I do things like this, is like, it's who are people rallying behind and what, right? And so I need to do a better job showing the world who I am and what I want everyone to rally behind, right? And so like, how do you do that? Well, there's only one way you do that is through content. You know what I mean? And the only way you can get your message across to people and get people to really fall in love with what you're doing is through content. And so I have a problem, and this is just me speaking openly. I have a problem. I don't like when people say negative things about me. It's something that's been really tough with me. Probably why I'm not already I realized this 4 years ago. I could have probably been like one of those really big entrepreneurs. I'm already pretty big and well known, but I could have been probably a superstar if I would have gotten rid of this earlier. But I'm kind of still wanting to be in the shadows a little bit. I'm kind of over that now but I just don't like people saying negative things about me. Dude, why? Shut up. But with great power comes great responsibility. With great influence comes great responsibility. No matter who you are, I think this is what kind of changed my narrative on what people think about me. But Elon Musk is the coolest mofo around, and everyone still talks shit about him. So it's if you're going to be the coolest, richest, most badass mofo around, and people are still going to shit on you, there's no avoiding getting shit on. Everyone's going to shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I've now accepted that, okay, some people are just going to talk shit, and you just got to let them, because what are you going to do? They're going to smile in my face when I'm, you know what I mean? There's no one's going to say it to my face, really. And if they did, that's a different scenario. But the point of the matter is content is key, and it's quite literally, we're in the IP business. I don't know why everybody thinks we're not in the IP business. We're in the IP business. Your business needs to be creating content. Me as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, as a leader, as a role model, I need to be creating content. We all need to be creating content. If not, how is anybody going to know all of the bright ideas that are going through your brain?
Yep.
And so that's why I believe content is king. I think it is the most important thing you could possibly do for your personal brand, for your company, for your business, for your NFT project. Everything needs to be built around content. And that's why, again, think about output of content compared to everybody else. The only person who probably beats us to it is VFriends, but I don't think he his output of content is ridiculous. They really crank shit out, but I don't think he has a good finger on the pulse as to what type of content they should be making. But think about output of content. We post Instagram, Reels, TikTok every single day, dude. Clockwork, 7 days a week. Nobody else is doing that.
Right.
And it's not that hard. People think it's just so hard. Maybe we don't tweet every day, but Twitter is different. Twitter is not a content heavy, though Frank would disagree from D-Gods. Him and I have talked long and hard about this. He has this little edge on content on Twitter that I think that I wish I could replicate, but we don't have the same type of brand.
Mhm.
His brand is more I'm the fucking rebel one, we're the rebels of the world, and then so he can do that, and he can post videos of Lil Wayne songs with edited things and Skittles on the thing, and that's not after he's a rebel. That's their brand, that's the one. The only one part is naturally as a human, I'm kind of like that. That's my diamond hands. You got the Chinatown in the background, the sneakers. Dude, I got 400 pairs of sneakers. You know what I mean? That, naturally. That's why also Pudgy's been a challenge, because naturally it's half of my my higher level thinking is Pudgy, but then how I grew up is D-Gods and Bored Ape. You know what I mean? That's how I grew up. But where I've evolved is okay, I want to help people. I want to change the world. To me, that's Pudgy. But what I'm naturally used to is skater. You know what I mean? You were talking about dabbing. I was dabbing before I was smoking weed at fucking 14. You know what I mean? So it's just that is that's I'm enjoying this conversation. You can tell it's actually the best one probably since I took over.
Enjoying this as well. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I actually, Luca, on that note, when you mentioned that naturally what you are geared towards, I can almost see at some point, I don't know if it's a secondary collection of Pudgies or it's a media or of some sort, but Pudgies, yeah, it's the Pudgies embracing that skater culture and having that as a sub thing within the project itself, because I think there's space for that, and especially if that's something that's naturally where you're geared towards. Projects are created in the shape of their founder or in their figure and how they think and move. So I can see Pudgy's taking that direction at some point, just from how passionate you are when you talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would trust me, I would love to. I think I got to be how think in my mind I have to be super chronological. Like I cannot go into the next
Yeah.
phase without dominating the first
Yeah,
phase.
yeah.
Like I have to hit my mark first, but the second I'm comfortable. Like I'm like, okay, we our foundation, our mark is set in like angle one. I've got some brain ideas. I just like, my thing is I got to keep myself in check because sometimes I can go way too ahead of myself. I just got to like bang things chronologically. But dude, yeah, Pudgy boards, skate videos, like totally.
Yeah, like I can just see it in my mind. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be it'll be a natural fit. Like it'll be a cool thing. And
It would be very cute to see the big pudgy penguin, the one that we see on Instagram on a skateboard. So you can already start doing that. I want to see that real. I want to see it. But anyway, going into content. Yeah, we saw that you have started an official Twitter space, chilling with pudgy penguins. Also, you're gonna put out content in collaboration with non-fungible films. That's a lot of visual and audio content, and yeah, just like what's the vision in all of that, all of those partnership, and what you're putting out? Is it for like your holders, or that's interesting.
Yeah, so I think for Chillin for Pudgy Penguins, the thesis there was like people underestimate who I think is a part of this community. Like I've been in other communities, but like, say this non-biased. And again, like my biggest holdings, if you like go across all my wallets, are Pudgy Penguins, and this was before I took over.
Mm-hmm.
Like the smart people that own Pudgies is like ridiculous. Like the real builders in Web3 and crypto, like this thing called the Paying Pal Mafia. It's based on the joke on Mafia. There's this thing called the Paying Pal Mafia, and like it's like not even, you can't even make the graphic enough. There's like so much more people on that graphic than is shown. But like, dude, there's like really big brain people there. So I think on the Web3 side, it's like people need to know that like we can have the best conversations, the best of them. And like people are having these huge spaces rambling. Like then we can have a dope space too, like talking like, the real spiel. And it's a healthy and really good conversation. And it's community ran. I basically said, part of my job is to empower the community. I'm not on there. I mean, I can hop on there whenever I want, but it's like, let me give you a platform to like do what you guys do best. Like I want you guys to grow your personal brand. I told the community this, like you guys come to me with an initiative, let me know how I can support you to grow your brand to help you in life.
Yeah.
Like if you help me, I can help you. It's reciprocal. So if you want to step up to the plate, like batter up, baby. Like I'm going to throw you a fastball and we're going to get to hitting. Like that's just how I look at it. That's Web3, right?
Yeah.
Like that is the ecosystem. Like what is Web3? If I have to do every single piece of content, every single space, what is that at the end of the day? It's the Luca Netz company. Like that's not what this is. Like this is the Alex from Nansen company, the PB McGee, the Burko, the Buckets, the Daniela. This is all of our companies, dude. Like this is like, we're just one unit. Like, and so that's my job. And I think they all fit different pieces. Again, like, I think our core audience is going to be the younger generation, just from a product side, and like where I think like I want to win long term. I want to touch younger people. I think there's just more value and more upside in doing that. But like dude, we have older people in our community. Like so, like our Web3 content needs to be catered to them. I think that was probably the hardest part in the beginning. Was like, okay, like you can't go too kiddie because then you're gonna like neglect the like the grown-ups and like some of the people, like, you know what I mean? But like you also, so like what I've done is I've separated social media networks for content, right? So like my Twitter does not look anything like my Instagram and my TikTok, but it's because my Instagram and my TikTok are targeting that audience that I want to go buy my toys. And then my Web3 positioning, right, for my Twitter is I use my Twitter to position like the tech people and the investors. It's like more of like the company profile and like, this is how we're growing. This is what we're doing. Right. So they're different. The branding is the same. The color schemes are the same. The messaging is still relatively the same. Like the underlying message is there, but like they're two different types of content I'm shipping out. But I feel like you have to do that while the bar is still like a little misconstrued, like we're still like in this purgatory stage where like Web 2 and Web 3, it's like they're like, it's not like Web 3 yet, that's kind of how I'm doing it.
It's interesting because it's like understanding the context of each of the social media platforms and the audience that's on that. You mentioned a Peng Mafia. There's also 10K Mafia that we like to that I pushed that in the Discord quite a lot back in March, and I'm like, there's gonna be some really cool shit coming out of 10 KTF, and like I'm not gonna wait for the Mafia, like I'm gonna help build the Mafia, um, which is part of the reason why the three of us got together and started doing this show. Before we get into 10 KTF, I did want to ask you about uh, the role of IRL events for NFT projects, and do you see a lack of media coming out of these IRL events? Because we have a big thesis about that we can touch on later, but I wanted to get your thoughts.
Yeah, so IRL events has been like, it's really interesting because in the short term, I don't know, it's hard just from founders, just from my perspective, from like, hey, do I throw more IRL events? Input versus output's been tough because you have to spend a lot of money to execute them. And it's not like you're like, if I spend, 100 G's for Eminem to post Pudgy Penguin, the ROI is there because then volume, and then I see royalties, and then I say, okay, there's the IRL events. You spend 100 grand on an event, like don't expect that you're going to make any volume that day or the next or the other couple of days. So, but there's something to be said that like I think the long-term ROI, it's like hard to quantify, but I think it's there. I agree. Like the whole just content in Web3 in general is like the bar is like ridiculously low. Like it just really surprising, but it's because we've rewarded people for low effort in the form of millions that they now are desensitized to hard work
Right.
and really meaningful outputs that they just like do bare minimum inputs and then they get rewarded and then they give you bare minimum outputs because like that you've already shown them that you've rewarded them for that type of behavior. So whose fault is it really? You know what I mean? And so I think content, the bar is low, but I think from IRL events, I like them. I love seeing people happy. I love seeing the community engage. I love like seeing the conversation, people being able to meet each other. It's hard, especially for me who's like bootstrapped to like constantly now. Don't get me wrong. We've done 2 events. We did a crazy freaking yacht party. The first event I took over was kind of a morale booster. Then we did NFT NYC. And now we're doing another event. I took over the business 9 months. Like it's been in a total 8 months when Art Basel happens. I would have done 3 events that were all at I don't charge people for food. I don't charge people for drinks or alcohol. Like none of the above, dude.
Yeah.
So like I'm 3 events in 8 months with like pretty much starting from zero, no funding. Like I think people can respect that. And I think that like bodes well and helps me in my favor. But I do see a lot of people struggling with, spending 100 G's on events. Does it have meaningful output? I believe in the long term it does because like people remember and it kind of just stacks. Like one thing that I like to do is like stack my resume. Like once the 1 year mark hits on Pudgy, I'm going to show everybody what I did this year. And I believe that when I make that announcement and I stack what we've accomplished in 12 months and you stack it against everybody, every single, I don't care who it is, you stack it against every single person's 12 months, you're going to say Luca did more than everybody else. Like that. So the events I think goes into that stack and it makes holders happy. So I think those 2 things matter, but I think I understand why some founders like it's tough because they are really expensive, dude. And we're not in the event throwing business. Like, maybe we are, but we're not at our core at the event throwing business. So it's like a catch-22. It's actually a pretty hard question to go, but I would believe when it's all said and done, it turns out to be a net positive. When you do, like, I think it works.
Okay, so going back to what Luca just said about having in real life events, like making people happy. I don't know. Don't you think that that goes also into the emotional utility that you want to give? Like, because to be
100%.
honest, it's every time I went to an event, even the Miami event, I was there at the yacht party. I really enjoyed myself. It was amazing. It's not only that I was happy. Okay, I've been to a nice place. No, I actually met people that I got in deeper connection, like that we created relationships. I met like their wife or people that they care about, and we got to text after, having those deeper relationship that helped me in other days of my life that I was maybe alone or whatever. I was in New York, they came here and they were like, okay, let's meet. That goes into the emotional utility that a project can give. So that's what I think about in real life events, and I would like to hear what you think about this part as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that's probably the biggest point of events is that. I think it just comes down to being able to touch as much people as you can with those events. And, some people, again, looking at it too transactionally, like it can be tough for some founders doing it. But that's why I've done 3 in 8 months now, like I think they matter. And I think like when we have certain runs, like I guess we were the hottest NFT project, like in the world, like everyone was talking about us. Those events I think led up to that. You know what I mean? Like they made us legitimate. They like brought it together. Like at the end of the day, like who's doing that? And so I agree. The emotional utility there is second to none.
Yeah. So, Luca, you've been very generous with your time. We're running into the next maybe like last 10 minutes. We wanted to touch on 10KTF, and then we're going to get into some rapid fire questions.
So 10KTF is a project that is a storytelling project and has lots of media coming out of it from different content creators at the community level. We know that you're focused on IP with the Pudgies. At least like for us and like this whole new Tokyo news thing. Well, the damn show. I do a couple different shows, Neta as well. But like, we're just trying to hold it down for the crew. You were saying earlier about those reciprocity pieces, right? And how in your community, you're making sure that like, hey, when I got an opportunity to link someone up on my end, I want to make sure that I do that because they're all building their own brands too. What does that look like? At least like for me, I haven't utilized any IP. I haven't thought about using any of my NFTs to try to bridge into this gap. Instead, I'm using like dumb old Diamond Hands face here, right? Where like there's different things that come with that. But at the same time, I guess the larger question is, what do you see utilization in IP into content and community creation into the future?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I'll say that 10KTF does storytelling the best. Nobody comes close, not even remotely. I mean, not even like it's like 10KTF is 10,000 miles away, and like the next person is like so far from 10KTF. It's just like not even close. Like a pure masterclass in storytelling. So kudos to them. I've told them this and I've told other people this. I'm just like, I'll stand by them. If you're talking storytelling NFTs, it's 10KTF and there's no else.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say it, but like no one else is like, there's like fake storytelling. Like this 10KTF is the standard. And so that's just want to say that and give credit where credit is due. I mean, dude, like the use of IP and content and how you create, like, dude, it is quite literally everything. Like, it's going to be a pretty short question for me to answer, but like, it's the beginning, the middle, and the end. Like, what else are you gonna do with this stuff? You make products, you do content, and identity, and that's what you've got. And then you've got something that price might go up. So you've got this emotional, identifiable, vehicle that is you and can help spread a message, whatever that message is.
The community has been dying to know what is the utility of Pudgy rods. We want to know right now.
That's funny. You'll know before the year's end. I'll tell you that. That's some big alpha.
Okay,
I
wow.
like this.
Big alpha on the dance.
It's working.
It's Pengu season, guys. Like it's winter penguins. I mean, you guys tell me, but this is where we thrive. So I plan on by the end of the year for you guys, for the world to see some of the things we've been working really hard on, and for people to see that we're undeniably. I would like to go into the new year an undeniable top 5. So we'll see how the next couple months shake. Cool.
So yeah, I've been fishing with my fishing rod into the the Discord. Yeah, I jumped there and I asked some questions. So your community, people from your community, beside this question about the Pudgy rods, that it was from Cryptomantic. Thank you, Cryptomantic. There is TGS asks, are there any new toys planned for the little Pudgies?
There's more toys than what even the community knows. So like I'm looking at like toys, mass market toys, but what I haven't shown are like the real fine collectibles. So fine collectibles have not been previewed. They've not been showed even in the Discord. And I've like dropped some like the Discord knows what the final mass market toys look like, but like digital high-end collectibles, nobody knows. And that will be releasing soon. But no little Pudgies. Little Pudgies have their own little like they have this own series where like, you buy these little igloos, you don't know what's inside. There's like different rarity. Like I've given the little pudgies, like they're blessed over there, man. Like they've got their whole line, for them. And I had no plans to do that. It just worked out like, really well.
Cool.
Yeah, they're super cute. Okay. The Leo Win,
Yeah.
it's interested in merch for women, and if the Pudgies have any plans to empower women or do something also, because we need that to be done in as many
that-
projects as possible.
Yeah, that's something so we have the Penguin Princesses, and I kind of told Busby and Daniela that like anything that I can do to help you guys, we're releasing a Soulbound for them, which will probably be released when this comes out. Women merch, yes. So we have like positive affirmation merch. It's like more women oriented that will be released. The less penguin, it's like I feel like some people just don't want to wear stuff with penguins on it, which I totally understand. And so positive affirmations is kind of our thing, uplifting people. So we started this brand called Affirmations by Pudgy Penguins, which is been Pudgy, positive affirmation T-shirt that I think is more in line for like women's wear. And so yeah, but like the more the barrier. Like I'm telling the community because I agree. Like how can we empower our women more? And it's something that's definitely a focus for sure.
Luca,
Great,
this
thank you.
this has been a great conversation. We had so many other questions, but I think I'm so happy with the way that it turned out. We went philosophical. We touched on IP. We touched on content. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time. This was the Damn Show, everybody, with Luca Netz. We have Diamond Hands. We have Tare. We have Maybe. Thank you, everybody, and make sure you like and subscribe. And we will see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.